Hello, and welcome to Lesson 6. This week we are embedding teaching and intensive individualized teaching for supporting students in your classrooms. We're going to think about prompting and the hierarchy of prompting to support highly individualized teaching and learning for your students in the classroom. We have a Yellow Dig conversation this week, the teaching loop prompting, the prompting lesson plan, and also have the coaching opinion embedded teaching community of reflection and practice feedback, and your self-reflections on your videos. I'm going to bring your attention to the content for this week. We do have readings around teaching IEP goals and objectives in the context of classroom routines and goals. I think it's important to recognize that goals and objectives should be generalized across different settings within the context of your classroom. That is the best way to support students' growth and development in all areas. How can I help prompting procedures to support children's learning? An article from Young Exceptional Children. We also have an article around choice making as an intervention strategy for young children, and then we have a review here about the teaching loop. The viewings this week, we have strategies for everyday learning, and then we have the teaching loop. We've also pulled out specific parts of the teaching loop to provide you some more context around the different types of supports that you can provide within the teaching loop. We have more viewings continued. So visual, verbal prompts, modeling and physical prompts, gestural and verbal prompts, physical prompt and visual prompts. So those are all sort of pulled out for you to see particular strategies in action. Presentation this week, creating learning opportunities and embedded teaching. And then I have a video here for you again about the teaching loop and embedded teaching. Context around using prompts as well. So lots of good resources and references for you to review before you start your assignments this week, especially around designing an interaction, and then design your early learning outcomes activity. That is the activity matrix, and then your video that you're going to show us one of those embedded teaching opportunities within your classroom. Okay, so for the Yellow Dig conversation this week, we are doing teaching loop prompting. So I provided you with a reference so you can see exactly what the teaching loop is. I want to encourage you to watch the presentations and all the videos that we provided for you in the course, but this is another reference for you to give you some context about the teaching loop. I want you to scroll down, and you're expected to watch the video. And then after, of course, you've watched the presentations and read the materials for this week, that gives you more context about what's actually happening within that video. And then I want you to comment about what struck you. Does this look like an activity you might see in a preschool classroom? What specific skills or concepts was the teacher teaching? The teacher planned explicitly for the little boy on the left to participate in turn-taking games or interactions. What did you notice the teacher planned teaching? And then what other typical classroom activities or routines could the teacher embed this teaching, this skill in? Okay. So again, make sure you watch the video, watch the resources in the course so you have some really good understanding about the teaching loop and what we're talking about when we're thinking about embedding teaching and learning within the context of classroom routines. So that's what you're expected to do, is to watch and then provide some feedback. So when you're ready, click into the Yellow Dig Engage. It'll take you to our page and you can do your comments there. When you are ready, go ahead and click Next. So this is the prompting lesson plan, or the ELO at a glance. So really, you're supposed to be designing an activity based on one of the goals from breaking it down from lesson 5 that you did, the goals and objectives that you had been working on for your focus student. So I want you to create a lesson plan using the ELO, identify when and where you'll be embedding the teaching, and then plan and write what you're going to do, what you're going to say, and how you'll respond. So thinking about that teaching loop, you need to plan for materials and then think about how many teaching and learning opportunities you plan to provide throughout the day. So here's the ELO at a glance. When it opens for you, it's going to force you to make a copy. That'll be your copy for you to edit. And once you might want to just download it right away to your computer. That way when you're working on it from your, nothing will get kind of messed up when you download it, and try to submit it to Canvas later on. So you might download it, but that's up to you. So anyway, I want you to give me the date, think about the team as far as your teaching team, who's going to be working with the child's name, what's the routine, when and where will you embed this learning opportunity, and what's that one particular objective. So we're just thinking about one objective here, and then you're going to be thinking about the lesson or the activity or the interaction that you're going to do to support the child with this particular objective. So just I want to remind you that this is not an assessment. This is a teaching and learning opportunity. So thinking about teacher-child interaction, teaching it in a small group, within the setting of a whole group activity. So really thinking about how you're embedding this objective into an activity that's already naturally happening within your classroom. Okay, so give me details about what you're going to do. What are you going to say? What help will you provide? So think about that teaching loop, right? How will you respond? And what materials will you need? So try to be as detailed as possible. And then tell me what opportunities you're going to provide. So on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, like what are the opportunities your student's going to have an opportunity to engage in these activities, okay? So that's the ELO at a glance. You should be identifying what, based on the lesson 5, the 3 larger or the 3 objective or goals that you were working on. And so the ELO should be narrowing down onto one particular area or activity that you're going to be teaching the skill, and then tell me when you're going to be doing this activity with the child. So that is the ELO. Maybe it'll take us back to module 6. Let's see. There it is. So that's your lesson plan, and then you're going to videotape it in the classroom. So videotape the prompted embedded teaching in one of your classroom routines. So whenever that's kind of naturally happening, we want to see that interaction between you and your student. Your video needs to be submitted by day 5, that's Friday for us. Then Sunday, day 6, we need you to submit provide feedback to your peers, so community of reflection practice. And then on day 7, I want you to come back and really think about do some self-reflections based on the feedback you got from your peers and your own feedback. What went well? What are some things that you intended to do? What are some things you might do and change or update and do differently next time? Because we're always thinking about ways to improve. Okay, so basically what you're doing for Coaching Companion this week is to videotape this ELO at a glance lesson plan, the activity that you've designed for this week. You're going to videotape yourself doing the teaching loop at least twice within one particular activity that's focused on one particular objective that you, one of the objectives that you defined in lesson 5. Okay, so I'm trying to kind of draw that picture for you across the expectations. Okay, so here are the expectations. Then you're going to videotape yourself doing the ELO at a glance lesson plan, so the activity. You'll also make comments and provide feedback on 2 videos, and then you're going to come back and do some self-reflecting on what went well, what are some things you would do differently, and things like that. Okay, if you have any questions about this, please reach out to me. I want to point out to you that we do have some resources in here for you for providing feedback. So here's the reflect and sharing the video. So you're going to upload the video on day 5. You're going to do the self-reflection on day 7, right? So you're going to give some opportunities, but here are some things to think about as you are reflecting on your video or watching them. I give you some prompts about what we kind of expect to see from you as far as reflective comment on your own videos. On day 6, we want to provide feedback to your peers. Remember, we want you to be objective and specific, focus on multiple things, and providing feedback. As you're providing feedback, think about multiple perspectives, notice other strategies, and think about the early learning guidelines. What are the guidelines that are addressed in that video? So here's an example of feedback that we expect to see from you to your peers. Examples about what it means to be objective versus subjective. So we want you to really stay in this column, objective, specific, and provide detailed description of what's actually happening within the setting. I have some examples of high quality comments, not so good comments, and then sample of reflective prompts for your peers, okay? And then for your video, plan for improvement, right? So what are some things that you could do to continue to improve your practice? So those are things that I want you to think about as you're providing your feedback on your coaching companion videos this week. And I provided that as a resource for you in the course, so please use it. Again, if you have any questions, let us know. We look forward to seeing your assignments come in this week and your videos. This is usually a pretty fun week for everybody, but reach out with your questions and have a good week.